Hello and welcome to the Strategic Bookkeeper Podcast. Today's episode is a story and it's hot off the press, so to speak, meaning it was only yesterday that I did a 2-hour hot seat with a tribe member. That's someone inside my transformation program. And so what I did is I got straight, in the afternoon, that tribe member told me the result of the work that we've done, which I'm going to share with you in a second. And I decided I'd jump straight on and record this podcast for you while it was fresh in my mind. Now, what I want to do is give you 6 areas to think about when you listen to this story. And they are: number 1, limiting beliefs; number 2, employee mindset; number 3, bias and self-assessing for your clients; number 4, pricing; number 5, advisory; and number 6, communication, or as I like to say, communication as a secret marketing weapon. Now, I'll let you know that those 6 things, if you're thinking, oh, that was a lot, not quite sure what you mean, that's okay. Let the seeds be planted right now. And then I'm going to do a second episode where I go into these a little bit more. So the next thing I want to tell you before you listen to the episode is the results that we achieved, okay? Keeping those 6 things in mind. And as I share with you the results, I'll ask you a few questions just to challenge you on your thinking. So the story I tell you is of a tribe member who's pretty green in practice. So what I mean by that is she's only been running her own bookkeeping practice for probably less than 6 months. She's quite new. So think about yourself, where you're at in your practice, and just how far along you are. And I want you to tell me or think about this. So have you made many 5-figure sales right off the bat? And I probably don't mean 5-figure over the space of 12 months. You should be making lots of those, meaning if someone signs up for regular monthly services, a lot of those clients should be paying you well in excess of $10,000 a year. That's a 5-figure sale, right? Have you made many 5-figure sales individually to singular clients? For example, so I've made many 5-figure sales in my bookkeeping practice over the last 15 years. And for example, some of the ones that I used to do, always in advisory, because if I'm doing catch-up rectification, the initial sale's about $1,300, even if they spend over $10,000 with me. But in the advisory space, absolutely, I've invoiced out 5 figures, over $10,000 immediately to clients who've been very, very happy to pay. For example, software needs analysis and selection. So first of all, take a moment, feel free to pause this podcast and just answer that question for me. As we move through this podcast and the next one, pricing and products, because we're talking advisory as well, are really right at the front here. And it's pricing and products, which if I refer to the bookkeeping practice blueprint, which you get a link to in every episode. So it's the 1-pager. When we look at the left-hand side of that, we see products and pricing, product ladder, okay, and conversion process. Products and pricing, which kind of goes into your product ladder, is just one of the absolute central things that is going to be the difference between you building busy and thriving. I see most bookkeepers get this stuff wrong. I see most bookkeepers massively undercharging, massively underservicing their clients as well. So I won't go into that too much more now, but I'll tell you the results. So basically, as you listen to this story, I want you to know that Sarah, that's what the name that I'll give her for privacy, she, at the end of this 2-hour hot seat, when she went back to this client, and this client's in the recruitment space, she sold this client just over $10,000 worth of initial project work. So about $2,000 of it was the first phase of the catch-up rectification work we call emergency work. $7,500 was a recruitment advisory job. So she sold recruitment to a recruitment agency. So this is why I'm asking you to think about limiting beliefs and bias and self-assessing, because you'll hear in the episode how Sarah did not think that a recruitment agency would engage her to do recruitment, okay, because we self-assess for clients, and that seems logical. Why would they do that? Well, we have to work hard at not self-assessing. So then the remainder of the sale, so to speak, was a software setup. So only a few months really into commencing her bookkeeping practice, when most bookkeepers, when they're early on in their practice, will be getting all this stuff wrong and certainly would be very far from making a 5-figure sale, a $10,000 sale. Sarah is serving these clients really well and getting these results and moving into advisory. So that story is going to cover all of these things for you to think about. You absolutely should be able to, if you've got the right tools and support, you should be able to build a bookkeeping practice that gives you a nice 6-figure income. So that's well over $100,000, but we like to crack that $100,000 income for you, take home pay, and lots of time wealth. Even my bookkeeping practice does that, and I don't even get to work in it very much because I'm busy helping you guys. But I can still pull a nice 6-figure income while it's fully undermanaged. And it's a tiny little boutique practice. Bigger is not the way to better. That's a massive mistake that bookkeepers make. In fact, I want to help you build a small and mighty bookkeeping practice. I've done lots of episodes on that, and I'll actually mention that again in episodes that are coming up. So I've shared with you things to think about. I've shared with you the results that we got with Sarah. Now I'm going to share the whole story of where she went wrong, where she went right, how we changed things up, how she got the results, and I'll see you in the episode. I'm Jeannie Savage, the Strategic Bookkeeper. I've been in practice for 14 years, but more importantly, 5 years in, I achieved a lifestyle practice. This means I scaled my business, could take my hands off the wheel, and draw a nice 6-figure income while being time rich. And that's what I call my dream on my terms. I was recently awarded Women in Finance Innovator of the Year, recognizing my book, my podcast, my program, and my impact globally. The Strategic Bookkeeper is my life's work, and the opportunity to help bookkeepers globally achieve the income and lifestyle that sets them free absolutely fills my cup. Please do connect with me on socials at the Strategic Bookkeepers Way private Facebook group, or shoot me an email, hello@thestrategicbookkeeper.global. So I'm going to dive into Sarah's story, and as I tell it, I'm going to give you the lessons along the way. And it was really cool because when we did this hot seat and things came up, it was 100% relevant to content I just shared in our private Facebook community the day before. I feel like sometimes things just fall into place like that. So that was amazing and deepened learning around some subjects on communication and bias. So basically, to set the scene, Sarah joined my program in late 2024. As I record this episode, it's February 2025. So she's been in the transformation program not that long, maybe I think 4 or 5 months, and she took a break over Christmas. Now, she has begun to work at developing partners. In my first book, you can read about what I call EAPs, Evergreen Advocacy Partners. You might think of them as referral partners or partnership marketing. You'll find that in the attraction chapter. Now, by the time we publish this episode, my next book will be out. That's called The Bookkeeping Practice Blueprint. And you can read more specifically around that partnership marketing that I call EAPs in that book as well. A partner that Sarah had developed had, and in this case it was an accountant, had referred her some work. She got onto the phone or what have you with this prospective client. And at the beginning, she started to try and follow our process. And then she did what I call, she took a turn in a new direction. So she broke the rules and she went in a new direction. So I'll explain what that looked like and the lessons from that. So my process is for you to do a needs analysis to commence. A prospective client makes an inquiry and you start with a formal needs analysis. And from there, we encourage you to sell them a file health check. You might charge about $100 for that file health check. So Sarah began well, like she proposed that, and she sent a proposal for it, exactly what we want you to do. She sent her proposal. She uses Ignition software like I do. We endorse a couple of really great proposal softwares, and Ignition is one of them. So she uses Ignition, and she sends a proposal for the file health check along with her brochure, her video sales letter, and she should be using our messaging template. There is a strategy in every single word of every single thing, of every single part of every single process that we do, especially around the brand marketing and selling. So it's ideal if you look at it as like everything I give you inside the transformation program, for example, and even what I'm telling you here, okay, it's a recipe. And if you want the best result, this recipe should be followed exactly, not how I normally cook in the kitchen. I love to just throw things together. But actually, when I first cook something, I usually follow the recipe to get a feel for it. And it's exactly what I say in the program. I say, learn the rules before you break them, which I learnt in Latin dancing. So Sarah started off really well. She sent that proposal for the file health check for $100 along with the brochure video sales letter. And I don't think she used our messaging template, which we covered off later, and I explained why. Now, what happened next was that this prospective client did not sign, like did not accept the proposal and did not pay for it, but she decided to move ahead and do the file health check anyway. And reasons for that, which I'll explain in a minute. I'm going to continue with what happened after that and why that first decision to proceed without getting the client to give her a commitment by saying, okay, I'm committed. I'm going to follow your process. I'm going to, give your proposal the time and attention that it deserves to start this relationship. I'm going to show you my commitment to you as you're giving me your commitment to me. And I'm also going to give you some money, which means I go from being a prospective client to a client who's invested. So Sarah kind of let all that slide, and she proceeded, and then she made her next recommendations in the second conversion. So the first conversion is a file health check. So then she went on and she said, okay, I've done the file health check, and now I'm going to make my second recommendation. And off she went, and she recommended some catch-up work and some work all in one. Now, if you follow my process and you do that first part of it, we'll come back to that in a second. The second conversion is purely a catch-up rectification job, which is kind of bundled into one, right? If you're doing catch-up work, there's invariably at least one or two or three things that you need to touch in the file that might relate to rectification, even if it's just as much as, like, I have never picked up an accounting file that's perfect. And I say that to my clients. Nobody's ever getting a 1 out of 10. A 1 for us is like, there's nothing wrong with your file. A 10 is like, oh my goodness, buckle up, right? Now, I say nobody gets a 1 because it's normal to find something in a file, right? So if your file's a 3 out of 10, you're really down. Work can simply be asking an accountant to do an end of year journal. It can be anything. So I tend to call it catch up rectification work. And I can tell you, this is not my first rodeo. I've been doing this a long time. The process I'm giving you is golden and will help you see bunnies and rainbows in your practice. So sell the file health check first for $100, then move on to selling the first piece of project work, catch-up rectification. In February 2025, in my bookkeeping practice in Australia, we would charge $1,300 for that first piece of project work, and you might get up to 10 hours of time with a senior, some planning on top of that, which has happened before we really take on the job, because I've had to talk to you about it. And then if we can delegate it to less senior team, which is usually our remote team, then we can usually give them a little bit more bang for buck. Moral of that story is that my productized service for catch-up rectification is structured and strategic, right? So it's strategically structured in a way that my prospective clients don't really look at it as an hourly rate. even though you're 100% right if you think you need to kind of charge in blocks of hours for catch up rectification. But let me tell you, there is a way to make it look like it's not a block of hours and therefore you can't really work it out hourly. So that's the next thing that Sarah did, where she took a bit of another turn in a different direction as well, is as well as not getting that sign off and payment for the file health check and doing it for free, which most bookkeepers do file health checks for free, whereas you shouldn't be. She then proposed work where it was easier to see that hourly rate. Okay, we'll calculate the hourly rate. Next thing that happened, because the prospective client had not invested in the process, hadn't looked at her video sales letter and brochure properly, they got on the phone and kind of said, I can't use the ignition, like I can't see where to press go on the proposal, and threw a little bit of a tantrum. Okay, so when they did that, they then started to open this narrative where they said, look, we just $100 an hour. We just want you to come in the office and spend 40 hours a week helping us get sorted out at $100 an hour, which seems like good money. Okay. And it is if you want to take that kind of work. Point, what was happening is the relationship was such that they were treating Sarah like an employee, right? We want you to come in, we want you to work by the hour in the office for a certain hourly rate. Sarah asked me to help her with the conversation with this client for many reasons. One, it looked like there was a pretty big mess and she was a bit nervous about what needed to be done. Number two, she didn't have 40 hours capacity. Number three, she didn't want to get locked into working on an hourly rate. Number four, they weren't paying attention to her proposal and doing things the way that she wanted them, this prospective client, to do things. Like, so the first lesson is that if Sarah had have sold the file health check, like if she had have stuck to her guns and got this prospective client to sign off and press go and pay for it, they would have slowed down enough that they would have watched her video sales letter and which is done over her brochure, and it would have given her a competitive advantage. It would have showcased the customer journey that would have made total sense of what she was recommending. It would have turned a prospective client into a client. It would have elevated her as a professional, which naturally would have steered the conversation away from, I just want you to work for $100 an hour for 40 hours. If you don't get that dynamic set up at the beginning, especially given that the bookkeeping industry tends to be very female dominated, and oftentimes we're working with male clients. And unfortunately, just naturally, the nature of the world is such that the male client can easily see the female bookkeeper as just an accounts girl, right? And not give them that, treat them like a business. Okay. And it's a very important thing that you need to set up from the beginning. Although one of my professional services clients that is a male, he said to me, he can really relate to that. If he lets the client take control early on, they don't trust him as much as he wants them to right from the beginning. So from the beginning, you really need to set yourself up, as I said to Sarah, as the doctor writing the prescription to treat the illness, because the business is sick and you need to make it better in many ways. Okay. The client was quite, or the prospective client rather, was also quite frustrated because over a few days when this was happening, they began to feel like they just wanted Sarah to come into the office and get cracking for $100 an hour. And what I did is I got Sarah to kind of press pause for a second and work with me. And then we created a proposal using the template we have for catch-up rectification work and modifying it slightly to say, okay, after our conversation, we understand that you want me to come in at $100 an hour for 40 hours. I don't have capacity for that. I can give you 20. I'm prepared to give you up to 20 hours a week during the emergency work phase. But I do agree that you need someone 40 hours a week. So I'm going to send you a second proposal to recruit that person, terms on which I'm going to work. And then it has all these different details. I'm going to bill you for 20 hours in advance, and then I'm going to bill you ongoing 20 hours while we're in this emergency work phase. And to be crystal clear, once the emergency work phase is done, I won't be working on an hourly rate anymore. I'll be giving you my personal recommendations for keeping you up to date, which will be an outcome bill, right? Now, when Sarah and I role played this, what I pulled her up on, and what I really want to pull you up on now too, in case you're doing it, because I find the majority of bookkeepers doing this. So when we role played the conversation with the prospective client, she had a lot of words and she was doing what I would call bookkeeper speak. And this is where I come into communication as a secret marketing weapon. Treat others as they want to be treated, and you need to save your clients time and money. So I've just done some content in the tribe on this to continue to educate everyone. Okay. So every time you say a word to your clients or your prospective clients, you've just cost them time. Okay. And I told a story of someone I've engaged to do some work on my Airbnb and how he talked a lot and it stole my time. So what I kind of pulled Sarah in on was that she needed to I gave her insight into how frustrated the prospective client might be already because of the expectations that weren't very clear and the fact that the way that the relationship had been set up. But then I said, we need to keep this conversation really short and sharp. And the prospective client will likely be thrilled if you do that and you keep it very clear and direct and short and sharp to save them time and therefore save them money. Sarah understood that and she changed direction on the way she was going to communicate, and she went back to the client. She was very short, sharp, clear and direct. Just said, look, based on our conversation, I understand that you want me 40 hours a week at $100 an hour. I don't have capacity for that. I am prepared to give you up to 20 hours and everything that I said then. Okay. The client was thrilled. She told me the client was so thrilled and he had the reaction that I had told her to expect because she saved him time. Okay. And that's on the whole, your prospective clients and your clients want you to be short, sharp, clear, and direct and talk client. Please don't talk bookkeeper. So when Sarah and I role played it, she was using a lot of bookkeeper speak, and your clients hate that. You, as a bookkeeper, you're probably a detail orientated intellectual. Your clients tend to be more big picture, creative types. Okay. Lesson there is communication as a secret marketing weapon, and that you need to save your clients moments, okay? Because if you don't, you're costing them moments. And the fast track to poor retention, poor conversion, poor client happiness, like it's not being raving fans, is costing them time. Okay. And then the other one is costing them money. So the inversion of making someone time is costing them time. So you need to make them time, give them time back. It applies to everything. Like if you're doing an investigate the numbers meeting and you can get it done and get great results in 30 minutes rather than 60 minutes, then that is more valuable than a 1 hour meeting. So getting a big result in a shorter time is more valuable than a big result in a longer time. Okay. And that's the experience I had with an Airbnb consultant, that maybe what he wanted to do was try and give me all this time. And I don't want time. I want a magic pill. Everybody wants a magic pill. So you need to spend the least amount of time possible for the biggest outcome possible. Okay, so that's one of the key takeaways: communication as a secret marketing weapon. So the second one is not to self-assess for your clients. So this particular prospective client, actually a recruitment agency of sorts. And I had said to Sarah, well, in the transformation program, we give you everything that you need to recruit, and you can then use that in order to also sell recruitment advisory to your clients, right? That's what I do in my bookkeeping practice. If need to recruit an accounts clerk, an admin, a bookkeeper, and generally operations roles we're also okay recruiting for, then we charge a fixed fee and we do that recruitment. So I said to Sarah, well, you could charge out $7,500, the recruitment productized service in our templates library for Sarah. So we bought that up. And she said, well, they're not going to buy that off me. They're a recruitment agent. And I said, well, I'm a really amazing. And recently I paid a recruiter $5,500 just because I didn't want to do it. Right. So I don't think we should self-assess. Like, let's them, they want to say no, but you might be surprised. Now, the client moved ahead, getting Sarah to recruit an accounts clerk for $7,500. The other thing I said to Sarah is you've got the bookkeeping side of things. So there's a basic bookkeeping numbers 101, right? So that's the up-to-date, accurate accounting records. There is an amount, like a charge out rate, that the market will bear for that, depending on where you are in the world. In Australia, it's about $100 an hour, is vaguely in February 2025 what the market will bear for that. Some bookkeepers, of course, are charging half that, and some are charging a bit more, maybe up to 150. So 100 is like middle of the road. If you're charging less than that in Australia in February 2025, quit and get a job, because you will not make enough money to make it worthwhile. Now, in terms of what the market will bear for other advisory services, it's very different. Okay, so you think of a recruitment agency where you go and they might charge a percentage of the salary to recruit. So some businesses will pay $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to recruit a key person in the business. And if you looked at the time that was spent on that job, they might be making $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 an hour. Okay. At the end of the day, they're selling the outcome, not the hours. And you've heard me bang on about selling outcomes over hours. So now I want to bring it into what the market will bear. So what I said to Sarah is, let's say that recruitment job takes you 10 hours. It might take you 5 hours, might take you 20 hours. It's a little bit unknown, but we know that you're going to make really good money out of it. Okay. So let's say it takes you 10 hours and the client's thrilled. Well, if we broke that down on an hourly basis, you're making $700 an hour. And I said to her, so because she said she could refer it onto a recruiter. And I said, would you? Well, you could, but in the transformation program, we give you everything you need to do it and then support you. So I'm not sure why you'd do that, right? So I said $100 an hour for bookkeeping, $700 an hour for this advisory service. Which one are you going to pick? And I want to be clear that it's not about the hourly rate. It's about what the market will bear, and to get you to shift from employee mindset, because a rate for an hour is employee mindset. Okay. Whereas as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you need to be selling outcomes, and your clients want outcomes. The moral of the story here is that the client was really thrilled with the recruitment proposal and pressed go. So Sarah just sold $7,500 worth of recruitment advisory to a recruitment agent. Okay. And what I said to Sarah is, what I loved about that is that I'd just been doing training for my tribe in the private Facebook group via videos about our own bias and about not self-assessing for our clients. And that was the easiest self-assessment to make. Like, this is a recruitment agent. Even my mindset would be like, oh, they might not buy recruitment off me, right? But this tribe member, Sarah, she trusted me. And she took a step back and she stopped self-assessing for the client. She allowed the client to simply review her personal recommendations and make a decision. And they went ahead. So I'd love for you to take a moment, even pause the podcast, take a breath, and think about your own biases, and think about yourself as a consumer when you're buying products and services, and then yourself as an entrepreneur selling products and services. You might think of it as selling services because it's bookkeeping. I think of it as selling products and services, because when we sell an outcome, we're usually bundling up a whole lot of features, functions, and benefits in order to provide that. And it's got a fee attached. I call that a product. So I want you to think about that, because I know for myself as a consumer, every day, that self-assess my needs and desires based on their own lens. So what's their budget? How much money do they have? How do they feel and act around money? What are their own needs? What's their situation? And they miss massive opportunities. Okay. They miss massive opportunities to sell me products and services at high rates that don't require very much time because they're self assessing. And I see with bookkeepers all the time missing massive opportunities, okay, to serve their clients with products and services with amazing life transforming outcomes because of their own bias and limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs, bias, self assessing, and more. And you know how I know that? Been there, done that. It is something that we never get rid of completely. It's something that we're always working on. For me, I'm privileged to be able to teach others because I can tell you, if you really want to deepen your own learning, teach others. I'll come towards the end of this podcast with a few summaries about what we've learned and also what Sarah learned and what she's going to do differently. So when we were in the hot seat together, I said to her, I'm going to get rid of this headache that you've got with some aspirin, right? But I need to know that you understand the source of the headache and that you are not going to repeat it. So, thinking out loud, Sarah kind of went through why she'd done what she had done. And I said to her, what's happened at the beginning is we've got this beautiful process. And in the hot seat, I actually worked with her to open up her ignition software and do the proposal with me live so I could kind of really just deepen that training with her. And so what I said to her is right at the beginning, when you sent that file health check, okay, and you decided to proceed without getting that signed and paid for, you took a turn. So you're at a fork in the road and you turned and you headed to Paynesville and you ended up in Paynesville. Okay. Because one of her concerns was, I want to nurture the relationship with the partner. And that is a valid concern. You need to. But oftentimes, what I find with bookkeepers is what they think will damage the relationship with the prospect or the client is not what will damage it. So they think, well, if I don't do the file health check for free, or if I don't do what the client asks me, or if I pressure the client into doing things my way, all these things are going to upset the client. That's not true. Okay. That is 100% false. I'll tell you what will upset your prospective client or your client, and in turn, the partner that's referred them to you. Costs them money, costs them time. And the two are the same. Time and money are the same. So every moment that you steal from someone, every dollar that you steal from someone will cost you reputation and all of these things. Now, conversely, your clients don't want you to pander to them. They want you to be like a doctor. They want you to be the expert that you are. They want you to be in charge. They want you to make them feel like they've fallen into the hands of someone who is confident and capable and professional and can make recommendations and tell them exactly what to do. So when they said, well, I can't use this software, I don't know how to press go, which is bullshit because it's so easy. Yeah. She could have on the Zoom with me and I will take control of your computer or I'll show you how to press go. I mean, it couldn't be easier. You click once, you click a couple of times and off you go. Okay. So what Sarah said was, oh, well, I just thought I better be nice. I better do what the client is telling me to do. And if I'm not nice and I don't do what they want me to do, then that might reflect badly on me back to the partner. And it's the complete opposite. Okay. I said to Sarah, there's a great poem about mean mothers. I don't have it handy. But dealing with our clients can be a lot like having to be a mean mum. Okay. We need to take control, be clear and direct. Do not waste 1 second of that prospective client's time or our client's time, not 1 second, okay? Do not let one word come out of your mouth that is not critically essential and important, or you are stealing their time and therefore their money. Sarah had the experience that when she used my communication method, the client was thrilled. The client satisfaction skyrocketed, okay? That's exactly what your clients want. capable professional. And the other thing is that not self-assessing. Sarah has assured me that from now on, she's learnt her lesson and she'll follow the process and follow the recipe exactly, okay? So that it's all nice and easy and efficient and she gets exactly the result she wants. Lastly, I will let you know when working with another tribe member who is reasonably green as well. So she's been running her bookkeeping practice for, just trying to think, it's not a year. I think when we met, it was brand new and she's probably 6 or 9 months in. And I found out recently that she was doing free file health checks as well. And her reasoning was, well, they came through the accountant, so I thought I should do that. You know, they'd really like that. And it doesn't work. What happened is the clients don't value her from the get-go. She doesn't get the opportunity to use a product ladder. So then when you do the file health check and you sell a $100 file health check, and I think I say this in my new book, The Bookkeeping Practice Blueprint, you are using your product ladder to bring your prospective client into being a client by giving you money, a very low value. The $100 sale is the hardest sale you'll ever make. So what this bookkeeper, let's call her Sally, did is she did the free file health check and then she went straight to the project work, which is about $1,300. And suddenly the client says, well, I'm not going to pay that because they haven't been through the process in the product ladder in order to give you $100 to build more know, like, and trust, okay, which makes them 10 times, I'll say it again, 10 times more likely to say yes to the next one. So if Sally did that 10 times, she'll get a much better result than she would if she did the free file health check, okay? So the moral of that story is I watch it over and over, and the bookkeepers who follow my process to the letter get an extraordinary result, and it's quite easy and time efficient. And the bookkeepers who decide to do something differently because it makes sense, because it's logical, they don't get the result. And they say to me, I'm not converting. And then I say, well, are you doing this? No, I'm not. Okay, go and do that. Then they do it. They sell the file health check. They follow the process. They get the result. So I hope that you have had a lot of lessons from this story. I certainly did. We'll see you in the next episode. Okay, my friend, now it is time to take action. So what are you going to do with what you learned today? The way I see it, you've got two options. You can go it alone to try and save some money, or you can back yourself and go for it and join my tribe. And let me tell you, we are knocking it out of the ballpark. That's not a sales pitch. That is me serving you, dare I say, courageously. To find success, I 100% know you need the mechanics, which is like the keys to the kingdom, but you also need to get your mindset right and be super productive. And these are all things I help you with inside the program. I could go on about this forever because I really want this for you. Have a prosperous week, and I'll see you in the next episode.